Wembanyama is all the rage right now, with people making claims that he's like the best prospect ever and such. And I'm not gonna go that far, and I'm hoping to tackle this with a bit more nuance than the kind of content you typically see on him right now. I'm not really gonna make a judgment on whether that's true or not, but we're gonna go over his offense and his offensive upside and development, which I find so fascinating. And it starts with his shooting for me, where at like 7'5", maybe even like 7'6", like this guy is enormous, and he is setting off of movement from way deep with fairly impressive comfort for a guy of his size. Quick 1-2 hop into a smooth jumper. This is an NBA range shot from beyond, off movement, with the contest coming. Incredibly impressive stuff for a guy of his size. And the range is just always on display. Like, he is so willing to jack from, like, beyond NBA line. This is definitely beyond the NBA line. And he's comfortably jacking and hitting without real hesitation. A lot of his shots do, at this point, miss short. Again, I really love the organization here off of like a backwards screening action. See what this is so deadly. Obviously, Wemby is giant and will be able to finish inside and set screens. But when you can use him as the shooter in these kind of like fake screening actions and have him flare out, that is when it gets really deadly. And he sets perfectly. This left-right 1-2 is what he generally goes to. But he just doesn't have a lot of lower body generation. You can kind of see that like he's really relying on this like upper body flick to generate a lot of his momentum, just because his lower body and core isn't that strong yet. But the fact that he's willing to take these kind of shots, to me, is really impressive and is a generally really good sign. Like, already really comfortable setting and pick and pop, and especially when he's playing with like really electric guards who can draw help. Wemby is going to be able to step outside the arc and hit these shots with a lot of comfort. And you see him like running these pretty like guard like actions where you have him, you can have him as like the down guy in like Spain pick and roll, and then this obviously isn't Spain, but then you have him like run up and bump and run into an action, and he's comfortable taking one dribble and pulling into a little mid-range jumper when defenses overplay or playing really tightly to him, which is such an impressive trait of young players, let alone ones that are 7'4", 7'5". And Wemby seems to have like really impressive natural touch, despite the short misses and stuff. And touch is kind of a nebulous thing, and it's hard to correlate it directly to shooting projection. But Wemby is a practitioner of these like crazy difficult like step back jumpers, these kind of wild like touch faders, double pump that really have no business going in, but look really good. And obviously his ability to just like totally ignore contests, like 6'10" Patrick Baldwin, really has not much of a chance to impact this release. And because of his soft touch, I think Wemby is really able to just kind of feather these shots in. And it could definitely be a positive sign for his shooting projection. Even on a lot of his finishes, you can see the really soft touch where he's kind of just like flicking these shots up, like quick gather, offhand little flick without even really looking at the rim. This is impressive touch, especially for someone this young and large, and I think is definitely a potentially nice sign for his jump shooting potential. I think people are potentially getting carried away with like how good of a shooting prospect he is. Like, his numbers just aren't that great, like, to be perfectly frank. Again, like, pretty solid volume for a guy of his size, like almost 3 a game. I don't really care about the percentage or the free throw, given his age and his role and his competition. Like, it doesn't really matter to me as an indicator. But the important things are the volume is solid, but none of this stuff is amazing. The really amazing indicator, which I understand, and I talk about how important it is the shot versatility, which I talked about before on this channel, how important shot versatility is for projection. And the fact that Wemby is taking all kinds of shots. You saw the movement threes. You saw the deep spot ups. You saw the pick and pops. He's even comfortable, again, taking like step backs off of the dribble, even if they're not all going in at this point. And there really is like a fluidity to the way he moves, where he's able to generate space on these kind of off-foot jumpers. Again, like the footwork here is wonky. It's all wonky, but you can just see the touch and like the natural kind of shooting that Wembanyama is kind of displaying at this young age. His handle is genuinely pretty solid. Like, The handle's like pretty high, but he is really fluid. Like look how low he's able to get to the ground. And this is something we're gonna get on. Like this is rare torso flexibility for a guy his size, and we're gonna get into this movement skill. And I've been pounding the table on this channel and for a long time about in scouting about how important movement skills are for projecting upside and outlier development. And Wemby certainly has them. I wish he would like take this lane here and shoot this more open jumper. And his scoring process is a problem that we'll talk about in a little bit. But the handling coordination, the movement, the touch shooting, all of it is so impressive. And that shooting coupled with his off-ball game, where I think the most surprising thing to me watching Wemby's games was how smart of an off-ball player he is. Like, a lot of young players would just kind of stand here and clog this lane, but Wemby knows to relocate to the three-point line and fire a wide-open jumper. Like, very simple stuff like this, but these are NBA plays and NBA reads off the ball. And as I've been talking about, playing off-ball is a skill. It's a learned skill that it requires a different kind of awareness and intelligence, and it seems Wemby has that. Again, this guard drives, he spots this help slide down, and Wemby slides into the open corner for a wide-open catch-and-shoot three. Like, this is simple, routine stuff that makes a lot of difference, especially when Wemby's size is just going to present so much of a matchup issue, since like you have to put guys who can deal with him inside. But obviously bigs. Again, you see a similar play to the first off-ball one, where Wemby notices the ball goes inside, so he spaces, calls for the ball, doesn't get it. But when he sees this help kind of vacate, he knows to cut into the lane, and he's able to finish strong as well. So just really impressive off-ball awareness. Again, even in scramble situations, immediately identifying this is the help defender that is leaving him. I'm going to cut into the open space, and I'm going to rise all the way above the rim, and dunk that lob. It's so impressive, and I accidentally put this clip twice, but we're gonna watch it again because I really enjoy watching Wemby play off the ball. So like there is potential for like a uniquely scalable player, I think, here in Wemby with his shooting and the off-ball game, and obviously because he can just kind of length over people. Obviously, the strength has to improve, and the finishing through contact has to improve. But the fact that he's where he is already is really impressive. I do think like I was kind of talking about, like the scoring process is like a little questionable at this point. Like he will settle for a lot of, this is obviously late shot clock, but he is like comfortable attacking and close it like this, but often is going to settle. And this is not a perfect pass, but it's not really willing to look at skip passes and teammates a lot. And the passing on the move is generally like the biggest off-ball issue for me. And maybe his biggest real issue for his perimeter creation is just how much decision-making load can he handle. Because again, you'll see him kind of get himself into precarious situations. Even when he can attack a closeout and generate a second side advantage, there's a lot of teammates open on the perimeter, and he's not in a great spot to finish and ends up just kind of turning the ball over. And these plays are fairly frequent with Wemby, where he's kind of just lost handling, which makes sense. I mean, he's young, playing in a good European league, in the EuroLeague as well. But this is certainly an improvement area for his off-ball game to continue thriving as well. I think there has been a lot of really impressive progression, which kind of surprised me in terms of how he handles strength and like how he handles contacts. Or if we go back to that FIBA tape, where was that one play? That FIBA tape where he wasn't really that comfortable, taking contact and absorbing contact, and driving into defenders as well. Where like he has a smaller defender, but is just, very keen on, pump faking into a jumper like that. Where I think we're seeing more and more of Wemby being willing to take contact and hold his dribble through contact. And even if, like, again, we see a missed pass right here, which on the move, the reads just aren't there for Wemby. And a missed jumper, but he's able to take a bump here and hold the ball, which is a really impressive thing. And when we look at like other big handlers, I feel like he's honestly pretty functional, which surprised me at this point. Like he's not losing the ball a ton. There's not a ton of live dribble turnovers, and he's getting more comfortable. Like just because of how low he can get and how much leverage he generates. Like this is a 7'4", 7'5" guy getting shoulder level with a regular defender and holding a bump. And again, he doesn't convert, but I think these incremental developments in his on-ball creation has been really, really interesting to watch. It has been very interesting, like just to kind of watch develop. And obviously, the transition handling is great to see. But what I really want to focus on again is defenders are like coming at his hips. They're like, I'm going to push you, see what you can do about it. And Wemby is honestly responding well, especially as the season has gone on. Where he's able to shoulder that hit and take contact and get a shot in transition. And these are the type of plays that I really think Wemby is kind of going to need to continue to make as he is developing as a perimeter player. Because if you put smalls on him, the smalls can bump him, then that neutralizes a lot of his kind of speed and coordination advantage. But the closeout attacking at this point, I would say, is a really impressive positive. Where Wemby is like certainly drawing closeouts, because like defenses, even if they aren't like jumping hard at the jumpers, like he's able to take one dribble and stride past guys and just poster them with his length. And his, solid enough explosion for a guy of that general size. And like you can see the guard stuff developing, which is really, really cool. Like Wemby doesn't have an initial advantage again, like no hard closeout drawn here, but the quick jab moves this defender, and defenders just aren't used to 7'4", 7'5" dudes moving like this. Quick jab ends up missing a pass here. I think that draws a foul. But point is, his like perimeter creation stuff is really coming along, to me at least, in a super impressive way. Once again, the pick and pops are going to open this stuff up. He is going to hit pick and pops, which causes defenses to react. And then when they react to those pick and pops, Wemby is able to use ball fakes, to use his head, to use his brain as well as his length and his tools to move these defenders. Again, we see Wemby. Beautiful ball fake to get this guy in the air. And at this point, with an open lane and he's striding, there's really not much defenses can do at this stage to stop him. Again, like he is the freaking perimeter guy in like this low post split action. Where again, he's a threat to shoot this, and Wemby has shown that he will take jumpers like this. And yet like defenses are closing out. He's able to use his handle to kind of get through, and this finish is ridiculous. Like some of the length, like there are real finishing concerns, and I think especially on like interior moves against real NBA bigs, there's going to be troubles, especially early. With the fact that he can just like stick his arm out in orientations like this and finish softly with great touch is a really great indicator. And again, I notice how he's able to hold the ball in traffic. There's a dig defender swiping, and yet Wemby is able to kind of move the ball away from him and keep possession, which is so impressive. The handle is really, really impressive. The flashes are great. I talked about the functionality being kind of more impressive than maybe you'd expect, but obviously the flashes are awesome. Where he's able to kind of make these quick moves, and the next, the next steps here is being able to either gather into a jumper more quickly here, or to be able to make a decision and pass out, or to just power through a guy like this as a nice exemplification of his strengths and weaknesses. I do think he's a bit predetermined as a handler, but like there really are few guys this size who have this level of mobility and coordination. Like I did a video on Giannis that you should go watch. And Giannis at this age was again someone who was like stringing together pretty complex handling moves in succession, and finishing impressive drives like that. Evan Mobley was more of like a closeout attacker, probably just because of his role, but he was able to functionally dribble the ball up and dribble into shots and drives at the rim. And obviously there was like some more handling stuff with Mobley that maybe hopefully we'll get to see down the line, where he can use his handling, control, and coordination to get into the rim. But there just aren't a lot of guys like that. There really aren't. So like Wemby is rare just in the flashes and how comfortable and functional he is. Just in general, like despite there being a long way to go, just plays like this are outrageous. Totally freaking outrageous. Where Wemby is able to immediately spin. Like defenses are challenging the hell out of his handle. Like these guards see this like skinny 7'4" French kid and are like, dribble on me, and he is doing it. He is spinning off of this aggressive reach, punishing them, and finishing strong, or actually drawing a foul in that situation, which is just so impressive. One last One last thing on his scoring that we'll touch on today is I keep talking about length as a scoring tool, and Wemby is certainly going to exemplify that. As despite not being able to move this smaller defender really at all, he's able to get pretty deep position, and then like just because of how crazy his length is, he can scoop the ball right in front of the rim. And there's absolutely nothing this defender can do. This defender is full extension, and look at his arm, look at his hand. It's right at his face, and the ball is at the rim. So the handling stuff is so impressive that I'm very excited to see how his perimeter development goes, because I think there is real utility as like a second side scorer. I've seen like some like Durant stuff, and that's obvious. I think that's kind of ridiculous because like Durant is one of the best big shooters ever. And while there was similar stuff at the size with like him like dribbling into pull-ups, with his handle, and just being able to hit like pretty ridiculous tough shots with that size, and with that ability to dribble to his spots. And there were actually some overlaps as well in terms of handling weaknesses, where Durant could get bumped and would occasionally lose his handle, but Durant like statistically was one of the best like giant shooters ever. And Wemby just certainly isn't there yet. But the versatility is so impressive, and if as it has before, in many instances, that shot versatility, and that shot volume for his size and his role and his age can translate into actual shooting results, which I do definitely believe in to some extent, then that opens up his driving game and his off-ball cutting game. I think Wemby is someone who doesn't have to be a heavy on-ball guy to really be heavily impactful with the off-ball shooting, with the cutting, with the finishing, with the offensive rebounding. And if the handling stuff comes along to any degree, that's just quite the bonus. And I really think there is some one dribble pull-up stuff there, not like primary creation. And I don't think he's ever going to be the level of decision maker to handle that kind of primary decision making load. But a secondary thing is definitely possible, and obviously he just creates myriad matchup nightmares for everyone involved, and is really able to just kind of warp the way we view how defenses operate. If there's someone this fluid and mobile who is just so dominant interior-wise, adding on to extremely impressive rim protection, which we're not even covering in this video. But yeah, Wemby is cool. These days I'm reserving judgments on basically every prospect this early into their cycle. So I'm not making any like crazy judgments about him right now, but Wemby's an awesome prospect, and I'm very excited to watch him and see how he improves, hopefully, this next season.